I want to take some time over the next few weeks. This is Easter. We're in the Easter season. Next Sunday is Palm Sunday, where we celebrate and talk about the triumphal entry of Christ. Then obviously Sunday after that being Easter. And so one of the things that always has kind of come to my mind when we talk about the triumphal entry is, how does Jesus make such a public declaration that the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the religious leaders just watch? They do confront him, but Jesus kind of shrugs it off and says, well, if the people don't praise and don't shout, then the rocks will. But how do the Pharisees, in the group that they are, walk up to Jesus, grab him, rip him off the donkey, and begin the processes that happen later in the week? Now, how is he able to make such a public declaration? I think is my goal this morning, and hopefully in the time that we have, is to show that Jerusalem was primed and ready to welcome a Messiah. Now, unfortunately, they were looking for a Messiah that would save them from Rome, and not a Messiah that would save them from their sins. And that's why, as we look later into next week, why the Pharisees had all of their court hearings at night, why they approached Pontius Pilate very early in the morning, and why they kind of went against biblical policy in how to have trials and witnesses and the other sundry things, was because they were afraid of the people that were ready and willing to accept him. And so in John chapter 11, we come to the event very much known as the healing of Lazarus. Jesus he's not anywhere, I should say. In John chapter 11, we will start at verse 1. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. We've already known Mary and Martha coming into this, because Mary and Martha have already had an interaction with Jesus in which they're having this feast for Jesus, and Mary kind of gets scolded because she's more worried about the party, or Martha is, than celebrating the fact that Jesus is there. And she's more worried about making everything right and having the food ready and all the guests are happy, instead of the main focus, which Mary was focusing on, and that is Jesus. And so they have a relationship. This is not a one-time thing. They are very much familiar and have a very close relationship. Verse 2, it was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that saying, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And when he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. And so Jesus hears this letter. He receives the information from Martha that Lazarus is not very good. He is sick, and presumes the sickness is unto death. But Martha reaches out with the hope that Jesus will come and that Jesus will heal their brother. But Jesus waits. He stays 2 days in the place that he is at. Then after the 2 days have transpired, he says to his disciples, "Let us go into Judea again." His disciples say unto him, "Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou hither again?" They're confused. Why would you risk it? You know they hate you. They know they want to kill you. Why risk it? Is it worth it? Jesus answered and said, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no night in him." These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, "Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep." And so he tells the disciples, "I'm going." Then said his disciples, "Lord, if he sleep, we shall do well." So they have the idea, Jesus means he's dead. They're thinking he's asleep. "Lord, if he sleep, we do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest and sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead." It's amazing sometimes when you read Jesus' interaction with his disciples. He says something. And I think he's saying it hoping that they'll understand. And they completely miss the message. And so Jesus has to come back and says, "No, he's dead. That's what I meant. He's not asleep. He is dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go with him." We go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. And so Thomas still is stuck on the fact that he's not really concerned about Lazarus. He's more concerned with the fact that if Jesus goes to Judea, if he makes himself visible, he's going to die. And so Thomas is like, well, okay, if we're going to die, let's die with him. So let's go. So there's not, you can't underscore the amount of fear the disciples have because they think this is it. He's going to go to Judea. He wants to heal Lazarus, but he's not going to make it. He's going to die. This is the end of the ministry with Jesus. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave for 4 days already. This is an important aspect. He's been in the grave for 4 days. In Jewish practice, they would, I'll step back for a second. Judah is a very hot and dry climate. It is a climate in which, at that time, they didn't have a way of preserving the body. So when someone dies, decay begins immediately. And the Jews did nothing to stop the decaying of the body. So they would begin prepping the body for the burial. And the main form of prepping the body is to cover the stench. If you've been around a decaying animal long enough, you drive past it, it sticks in your car for the next 5 miles. It stinks. And so what they would do is they would wrap the body in pieces of clothing dipped in perfumed water. They would add spices. That's why the ladies are heading to the tomb Sunday morning. They're going to prepare that. They're going to add spices to help covered the smell. And so they would begin this preparation process, and every night, up until the third day, they would visit. They would continue this preparation, and so then on the fourth day, they would roll the stone over the tomb, and it would be considered permanently closed. And it was into that third and fourth day in which most, or if not all, of the mourners would come. So the day that Jesus shows up is the fourth day. It is when the mourners are the largest. There is a large crowd. They have closed the tomb for a final time, in which they will wait for a year. They will leave the tomb, the stone over the door of the tomb for a year. The decay continues after that year. Usually an oldest son would then go into the tomb to gather the bones, and they would either add it to the bone pile of other family members. That's where we hear the terminology. They were gathered with the bones of their ancestors, or their bones were added together. As time went on, they began to make these, what they call ossuary boxes, in which they would place the bones in the box, and then they would have like a family almost cave where they would put all these boxes of those that had died before. It was kind of their grave site, if you will. If you go to Jerusalem or Israel, those are still around. And you can tell who were adults and who were children by the size of their box, because they made the box the size of the length of the femur, which is the longest bone in our body. So they did it as to that size. And so you can see large ones, you see tiny ones. But that's what they did. And so 4 days is important in our story, because that is when it's the height of activity. And it's kind of the ultimate mourning process, because your work is done, preparing the body, and now you're mourning over the death of your loved one. So we pick up in verse 18. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. When Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus is coming, went and met him. But Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give thee. And so you see this immense faith that Martha has as she realizes that, yes, my brother is gone, but if Jesus asks God, and whatever God asks, he could still raise him from the dead if it be his will. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again at the resurrection of the last day. And Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And what a statement that is. And what a statement of comfort that is. To know that those that have passed, who know Christ, are not dead. And that we will see them again. But the power which Christ has, where he makes his I am statement, that the resurrection comes because of Christ. He continues, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Will never die. According to that, we who are standing here today, who know who Jesus is and have placed our faith and trust in him, will not die. say, but wait a second. This old body has a ticker. And that ticker's getting shorter. Well, our bodies may die, but our souls never will. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. We have everlasting life. That's why Paul can cry out, O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? Death is not the end. Death is the beginning of an eternity of something way better. Yes, there is pain. Yes, there is difficulty. And I would say none of us want to go through that process of death. We would all rather hear the trumpet and meet the Lord in the air and skip that painful process. But even in that, it is not the end. It is only the beginning of something much better, of something grander, of something that I hope we all look forward to. She saith unto him in verse 27, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come unto the world. Which for a Jewish person is a prolific statement. She says, I know you are the Messiah. You are the Son of God. You are the God in flesh has come to this world. She makes this profound statement. Then when she said, she went her way and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calleth for her. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then, which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, they rose up hastily and went out, following her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. And so they have these, not only mourners, but I believe you also have the religious leaders that had come to mourn the loss of Lazarus and to comfort Mary and Martha. So they see Mary run out, and they think, she's headed to the tomb, let's go with her. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at her feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. Now we all know verse 35. Jesus wept. Every elementary age kid knows that verse. What is the shortest verse in the Bible? I'll give you $1 if you say a memory verse. But why? Why does Jesus weep? I think there are a number of reasons why Jesus wept. I think one reason was because he truly did love Lazarus. And he was sad that he had gone. He was sad for his sisters that were weeping. There was a measure of grief. I think partly also he wept because in verse 33, it says he groaned in the spirit. This has the idea of almost to be upset. That here Jesus has come, the one that has the ability to give life. The one who has the ability to wipe away all their pain. They had seen his miracles. They know what he could do, and yet they were weeping. There wasn't a measure of, could it be? Is he here to raise Lazarus? Is he here to make our pain go away? But they looked at death, even with the presence of Jesus, as the ultimate end. That nothing could bring Lazarus back. And Jesus is almost upset that they're feeling that they did not see the possibilities. They said it. Mary even says it. Martha even says it. But to them, once death hit, the ability for Jesus to do anything ended. Even though they had proclaimed, you have the ability, they said one thing but believed another. And so Jesus, after he weeps, says, where have you laid him? And their thought was, well, they said, he weeps. Where have you laid them? They said, Lord, come and see. Jesus weeps, and they say, look how much he loves him. Jesus himself loved Lazarus so much, he wants to mourn at the gravesite. And some of them said, could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused even this man should not have died? Jesus, therefore, again groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. So you see this idea where death even still was the end. Jesus could not do anything after death. He could only do it while they were still sick or alive, or maybe just newly dead. We have the occasions where he has brought someone who was proclaimed to be dead back alive, but they weren't Lazarus dead. He's been dead for 4 days. The stench is starting to show. There is nothing, to them, there is nothing that Jesus can do. Then he comes to verse 39. Jesus said, take away the stone. And Martha is mortified. And she says, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. So what I say every time 4 days hits in our house to my children, you stinketh, go. I don't want you to be seen in public. And Martha is mortified because here she has this large mass of mourners. And we don't know how many, but let's say ballpark it at 30. There's 30 people, maybe probably even more, from the town, family members, religious leaders. There is a large gathering, and she is mortified. Because if Jesus rolls away the stone, there is going to come rushing out this smell of decaying flesh. And she could not think of anything more worse. And so she begs Jesus, don't make me do it. And Jesus said unto her, said I not unto thee that if thou wouldst believe, thou wouldst see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I knew that thou heardest me always. And because of thy people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And he makes this declaration that one of the reasons and why Jesus performs this miracle before and bringing Lazarus from the dead is so that the people there watching all this may know that he is the Son of God. That he has been sent by God and he has the ability to do one of the miracles that no one thought is possible. And to bring someone back from the dead. This was probably the most public of the miracles and the biggest one. You can't refute this. Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. You can't make that up. Multiple people saw it. There are multiple eyewitnesses. And if you're a Jewish Pharisee, the worst part is you yourself can walk to Bethany and see him. And so he says, with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, loose him and let him go. And many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Jesus had done. So they see this miracle. And those that had been there are two groups. One that saw and believed, and one went and told, we got to tell somebody. They went and tattled. They go to the Pharisees. But you have this group which has just witnessed the greatest miracle probably any person has seen to that date. And they leave Bethany. And word starts to go out amongst the people. Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead. The only person that can do that is God. This person must be who he claims to be. Verse 47, then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we that this man doeth many miracles? If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, saith unto them, we know nothing, ye know nothing at all. Nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation. And not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God that were scattered abroad. Then from that day forth they took counsel together for to put him to death. And so as we enter into, and this is just one part, and we'll look at the other part next week. One reason why the triumphal entry is able to go the way it is part of it is because what has just taken place. Jesus he brought Lazarus back from the dead. Someone who was dead in the grave 4 days. In the midst of many witnesses, is brought back alive. And word goes back to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees say, this man must die. And from that moment on, they are seeking ways to kill him. And the next verse we didn't read says, from that day on, Jesus nevermore went back to Judea. He actually goes to Ephraim. We'll look at that next week. But word begins to spread in Jerusalem. Bethany is just on the other side of the Mount of Olives. Those that lived in Bethany would have went to Jerusalem often. And if you had just seen Lazarus come back from the dead to walk out of the tomb in his grave clothes, that would be something you're going to tell everybody you meet. And so word begins to spread. And the popularity of Jesus begins to grow. And as they get closer to the main event of the Passover, the feast in which all Jews come back to Jerusalem, the question begins to come, will Jesus come back for the Passover? And what will he do when he gets here? And the talk, the popularity of who Jesus is begins to grow to the point the Pharisees and Sadducees are afraid of taking Jesus publicly. That then leads to the events that we know as the Passion Week, ending ultimately in the crucifixion and then resurrection of our Savior.